Well, welcome, Ursula. So happy to have you here with me today. It's so exciting, and I've really been waiting for our talk here today for quite a little bit of time. Thank you so much for making it work. I know we all have a busy life, so I appreciate it. Before we get started, I did want to just to do a brief introduction of you, just very short. Ursula is a KPMG partner with a KPMG partner in Australia with their tax practice. And here we are. I see us live on LinkedIn. Awesome. She's enabling the movement of talent across borders through tax. And I love how you shared that you're really in the people business, helping movement of the workforce through tax. And that's a very nice way to put things. Now, I reached out originally to you because we have some common work history there, although you're in Australia and I'm in the US here in the Chicagoland area. But at one point in my career, I also worked for KPMG, and
Good choice.
yes, well, thank you. And I thought I'll reach out to share. I believe I've seen one of your posts where you were talking about the changes you are making with your team post pandemic. And the challenges we all face, right? Coming back to the office and wanting flexibility and whatnot. And I found it very interesting. The changes that you're putting in place that I believe would help a lot of other professionals out there as they think about how to bring the workforce back to the office or offer some sort of flexibility, hybrid, whatever the best arrangement is. And I know that's a big topic in the US right now because employees don't want to come back to the office and the business needs them there. So there's definitely a big need there. But before we go on with the talk, I wanted to give you a warm welcome all the way across from Australia. So welcome, Ursula.
Thank you very much. It's a struggle even connecting and trying to figure out a time that works across the different continents. So, but that's the business that I'm in, is connecting people, getting them where they need to be, and making it work.
Awesome. Yes. And thank you again for making time. I know it's very early in the morning for you. It's early afternoon for me. So we're on two different days even, right? So thank you so much for making it work before your work day. Without further ado, maybe let's get straight into it. Like I mentioned, what caught my attention are some changes that you have made for your team that I would argue increase the work-life balance for them. But maybe you can take us a step back and share what made you put those changes in place, and then share what actually put in place, what's the impact of those things. It's certainly mental health and wellness in the workplace is a big topic for all of us in the employment world, and I'm anxious to hear what have you done that worked.
Yeah, look, I think I'm very much an extroverted person. I get my energy from people, and so being around people at work gives me energy. Now, I'm not saying I do it every single day. I'm very much a believer in hybrid and enjoy that balance that it gives me. But bringing the team together in the office is important some days, because we all kind of want to get in, but we all need to make sure that we're there on the same days. So once we were done with the lockdowns and we were able to get back into the office, and I moved down to Melbourne to lead our practice down here, it became important for me to figure out, okay, how are we going to get people in and encourage them to come in so that we can spend time together? And it would have been very easy to just ramp up the machine of, let's have some meetings and get together in a room. And I thought, let's try something different, because everyone's read all of the studies that say we spend too much time in meetings that could have been an email, or, why am I sitting in this meeting? It's really boring. So I decided to get rid of our team meeting as such. So what we started doing is I started creating team gatherings instead. And so on our elected team days, which they're really elected, everyone, the group decided, we had consensus on what would be our couple of days that we would come in to the office. But what I started doing was actually thinking about why should we gather? And we took a poll, and we actually did have a meeting about it as well, and talked about what we wanted the future to look like. So instead of these meetings where you talk about, review your debtors, review your WIP, review your blah, 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 and really boring stuff. We relegated that to a Teams chat. That it's a persistent chat that we've got going. So if I need to make messages to people, I do that there, and we can communicate there. But our gatherings really focus around purposeful events. So for example, we might have a client come in. So we had a client come in a couple of weeks ago, and I interviewed her. And so it gave the whole team a chance to get to know her better, to get to understand our client better. It was just a good thing. We've got, special guests even within our firm to come through. So, you've all, when you're young, early in your career, you have access to me as the partner that you're working with directly, but you might not have direct access to some of the other senior leadership around the firm. So I've been bringing them through as well, and giving them an opportunity to talk to the team about what it is that they're doing and how they got there in their career and just their path. And then another thing that we've been doing is team dates. So it's about, people come to KPMG because they want to be a part of something bigger. You don't just want to do stuff in your little silo, and you want to reach out to other people. And when you're young in your career, that's kind of hard to do. So it's my job as the leader to facilitate that. So what we've been doing is inviting other teams to come on a date. So we'll meet at work. But in one of our client floors in a fun room, and we have some nibbles and some beverages, and we'll play a game, and we'll just get to know their business better, and we'll get to know them better. And so then when you see someone else on the floor or in the lift or whatever, you're able to say hello and have a conversation and talk about what's going on at a much deeper level than looking at them and wondering who they are, which won't lead to more collaboration at all.
Indeed. And I love that concept of team dates, right? You certainly took a concept of, regular dating and meeting other teams. That's amazing, because we all depend especially in this day and age, we all depend on each other and on the relationships that we have that are able to support us and help us grow and make that connection, or reach out for a question that we might have, or a problem that we can't seem to find a solution to. And it's awesome to have those relationships. That's an amazing concept. Team dates. I love that. So how, where did you get those ideas? Did you source those from the team? Did you just kind of try them out as a pilot? How did this all unfold?
Look, I think it was really, I got a lot of ideas in my head. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. So I think during COVID, I tried to test out what would happen if we were all on like a video call together, not like a meeting, just all together and just doing our work. And then it was kind of like it would be like if you're in the office and you had something funny to say, you would, tell your joke, whatever. That did not go down well. That was a bad idea. No one liked that one. We tried it. It didn't work. So I think that's probably what I love about KPMG and my role, is I get the opportunity to just try things and see what happens. So we did about 6 months of these team gatherings, and then I went back to the team and I said, okay, do you like this? So I actually did a little poll to say, which events did you like? Which events did you not like? Which do you want to do in the future? So I had some feedback, and anonymous feedback, because it can be kind of, hard to tell your boss, hey, I didn't like that. That sucked. But we did it anonymously. And then I took that feedback to then think about, okay, what does the next 6 months look like? So then I scheduled all the next speakers and whatnot for the next 6 months. And then as we get closer to Christmas, I'll schedule the next 6 months. So I think it's evolving. It's not saying this is what we're going to do forever. It's saying this is what sounds good right now. Let's try that for a while, and then let's check in and go forward.
Yes, and that's an awesome practice, right? Because we do need diversity, and setting things in stone that don't tend to help. Now, just switching gears for a little bit, since our topic is around work-life balance, any things that you put in place for your team that helps them just in general have a little more flexibility, enjoy that balance or that need to have a personal life while also growing a career? Any tips and strategies that you can share there?
Yeah, look, I think for me, it's a few things. The first is probably leading by example.
Yeah.
So I have a life and I like my life and I like to live it. So I think when I started and I came down, people were sending me emails on the weekend and I was like, oh, that's not on. Like, please stop doing that. And after a few weeks of me doing that, I got the point that I'm not working on the weekend and I don't want you working on the weekend unless we have to. And so it shouldn't just be common practice that you do that. So I think that living by example really says something. I think it's also by not just having them see what I'm doing, but also giving them help and tips and actual things that might work. Just this last week, every Monday I send out a little note in our team's chat to say what's gone on the last week that we should be proud of and what's coming in the future week that we should get prepared for. And I also do a little bit of reflection. And this week I reflected and I said, I got a little bit too busy. I got too busy and I let my personal side of things suffer a little bit. So I'm going to refresh my boundaries. And I shared with the team what one of my non-negotiable personal boundaries is. So I have a 7-year-old son and I like to take him to basketball practice and to his games. And so it's in my calendar. I'm not going to change it. I'm always going to go. It's non-negotiable. And so what I asked the team to do was present to all of the rest of us what their non-negotiable was. So we had one team member who said they always have a family dinner on the Wednesday night. So she must leave on Wednesday on time to make sure that she gets to that dinner, or not even leave work, just stop working, which is, we're hybrid. So sometimes you're at home and you just need to close the laptop. I have another person who likes to do dance. So on 2 nights a week, they go do their dance. They're not going to work after a certain time on those days so that they can go do their dance class. So I think once that's known and I remember it, I will respect it. They will respect it. Everyone will respect that. And I think it just kind of builds that culture of we are work people and home people. We're bringing our whole selves to work and we're respecting our home life when we're there.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's awesome. And I love that it's so important, right, to feel also safe to share those because psychological safety is one of those other big topics out there in the workforce. And seeing the leader sharing that, again, leading by example makes a big difference. And then the team members feel a lot more encouraged to actually take that step. So what have you seen though? What is the impact of actions like that you've taken? Have you seen a change at all?
Well, maybe I'll share. So we do a global people survey, a pulse check to ask how people are going. And I was probably most proud. Everyone in our team that was surveyed, we had 100% that they were proud to work at KPMG. And I think that that's because we offer that flexibility where you can work where it works for you, your team, and your client. That's our approach. And as a team, we've decided what days we want to come in and be with one another. It's not mandated, but they want to come and be with one another so that we can connect. So it's not, command and control type leadership. It's what works best for everybody. What do we want to see happen? And let's do it together. And then they're happy. And then I don't have to tell them that you have to come in. They want to come in so they can see each other and have a good time.
Yes, indeed. Awesome. And that 100% score, that goes a long way, right? I mean, not 90% or 95%, 100%. That's a big response that it's really working. So, thank you for sharing that. I'd like to switch gears just a little bit now to perhaps a little bit more of the personal side, right? Because you're a partner now all the way at the top of the totem pole, right?
No, there's more top. I'm not the CEO.
There's more. Okay, well, very close. You're part of the top. You're part of the leadership team, right? And yeah, I know there's senior partners and such. So yes, there's more layers you can go. But for most of your team, right? You're probably at the top there, and you're their model of where they perhaps want to go in their career. And I think it's important to see a little bit of the personal side and the path that got us here, right? A lot of times people only see the success, right, the spotlight once you've made it, and it's all so nice and it feels perhaps so easy from the
Yeah.
outside, right? And it's not always like that. It's a journey, right? So I'd love for you to share just a little bit of the journey. I know when we spoke just for a second before to prepare for this interview, you shared um, there was a stop there in your career, and I'd love for you to share a little bit more of what that unfolded, how that unfolded.
Yeah. Look, I think to your area of expertise, burnout. Look, I think I was approaching 30, and it was a really rainy and awful winter in Sydney, and I was just feeling and my husband was kind of feeling that way as well, and we just felt you kind of get to a spot where you want to call in sick. And you're just like, I don't want to get out of the bed, I just kind of want to hang out, and you're not feeling it. And I was telling some ladies the other day, when you feel like that, you're approaching a bad spot. So you need to do something. And at KPMG here in Australia, we're really lucky, and we have a career break policy. So once you've been with the firm for more than 3 years, you can actually decide to have a career break for up to 12 months. So I decided that that's what I needed to do. I needed a break. Not for any particular reason other than I just needed to stop and enjoy life. And I was feeling not necessarily burnt out, but just kind of, I didn't feel the passion for a moment. And I'm a pretty passionate person, so it's kind of obvious when I'm not feeling it. So I decided to have a career break, and for 7 months. And my husband and I traveled Central, South, and North America, rekindled relationships with family and whatnot in North America, where I'm originally from. And it was just fantastic. I didn't want to have a baby. At the time, I was like, I don't want to have kids, but I need a break. And this was perfect. I had a backpack. I traveled in big buses in Central America. I learned some Spanish. It was fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So I'd love for you to share just a little bit, though, what got you there, right? We don't necessarily wake up one day and realize, oh, okay, I'm just not feeling it, I'm going to call my career quits, right? It tends to build up. It's not from day to day is what I want to say. And that's also how burnout happens. We don't necessarily realize it until it may be just a little too late. And in your case, I'm happy that you share that you didn't got there, right?
Yeah.
You realized, okay, I'm heading towards a bad spot. I better take some action now before I get there. Unfortunately, a lot of professionals just keep going, right, and hit that deep, depression, lack of energy, overwhelming stress, whatever you want to call it, right? In a sense, heading towards burnout, and they don't take action. So I'm wondering if you could share just a little bit what led you to that, right? Maybe share a little bit of your career before that, personal life, any other things that impacted you that might have gotten you there?
I think you get to, for me, I had gotten promoted. So I had worked really, really hard to get promoted to manager, which is a big step in the Big Four. So you work really hard, you're proving yourself, you get to manager, and then you're kind of thinking, okay, what's next? What am I going to do? What's the next goal? And you're like, yeah, I'll try to get to senior manager. And you just know that you can keep running and you can keep running. But then you also, for me, I was like, okay, where's the balance? Like, how am I love traveling anyway. So I was like, do I just keep working and traveling? It just got to a point where I was like, I could keep going like this forever, or I could have a break and just kind of enjoy life a little bit. And I think, like I said before, it was when it was Sunday, and then I think a lot of people are like, oh, I don't really want to go on the Monday. But I really was like, at the time, I was like, I just want to not go to work. And if you get to a place where you're like, I don't want to go to work, then you've got to make a decision. Keep going to work and suffer through it and just hate it, or stop going to work and take a career break.
Sure. And it's awesome that KPMG offers that, right? I'd love for other companies to follow suit and have options like that for people. It's not always available. And in that, a lot of companies perhaps lose great talent that otherwise might just need to figure out where they want to go and regain that energy, perhaps, and that motivation they lost.
I think it's important because you can offer a lot of benefits to parents, and I think we do a lot of. Maybe in Australia, we're very good about offering really great benefits to parents, but then that can leave the people without kids kind of like, what's the benefit for me? And I think that career break fills that void really well.
Yes, indeed. So, what sort of changes have you put in place once you came back? You said you took a break for about 7 months and did some travel and really refreshed and came back strong. Did you make any changes in the way you were working? I don't know, in your personal life, any things like that?
Yeah, I changed it all the way up. I changed it up significantly. So I don't know how familiar you are with Australian geography, but I was working in Sydney before, so on the East Coast. And I had a very good relationship with another partner who invited me to go work with him in Perth, which is on the other side of the country. So it'd be like going from LA to North Carolina. So I came and I thought about it and I was like, that could be interesting. And so my husband and I decided while we were on the career break, because we put all of our we stopped our lease, we stopped leasing our place that we were in, and we put all our furniture in storage. So we were really kind of unencumbered while we were traveling. And so while we were on the trip, we decided that we would move to Perth. So we decided to just completely mix it up. And it was one of the best career decisions that I made to go out there and try something different. And it was fantastic. So I mixed it all the way up.
Awesome. So just changing the location, anything else in the way you were working or approaching work or habits that you put in place, anything like that helped?
I think I made a real focus on work being enjoyable and fun. So I got an opportunity to lead one of our engagements, and my boss at the time gave me the autonomy to do that the way that I wanted to do it, which was fantastic. So I, created those boundaries. But then for me, finding joy in what I'm doing is super important. So it was just doubling down on how do we make what we're doing fun. So it was changing the approach that I had to the way that I was doing it and taking control of that for myself, because I was a manager at that stage. So I could. So the way that, I ran my engagement and the way that we approached it was fun. Like we instituted a wine and cheese night for our expats on this engagement where we brought the spouses in. So it's not to say that your work has to be dull and drab and boring, and that's the only way that you can find some balance. You can actually make your work exciting and interesting and something that you enjoy that enhances your personal life. And I think that's probably how I approach the work-life balance a bit, just to make it so that it's enjoyable on both sides.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So besides just, nights like that where you connect, anything else like during the day, right? And those things are fun, right? To have some sort of gathering, some sort of way to connect with your colleagues outside of work. But while you're at work, right? How did you change how you were leading to bring that joy in?
I think it's checking in. Oh gosh, that was a long time ago. So I think we just had a good time. I think it was scheduling, and it sounds weird saying scheduling the fun, but I think if you don't schedule it, then it might not happen. So I think it's understanding and figuring out, and I'm a big planner, so figuring out, what it is that we're going to do that is going to make this an enjoyable experience, and then sticking to it and making that happen and making it a priority for everyone.
Sure. Awesome. And I agree. It's important to keep the levity in the air and not treat everything so seriously. I feel we get a lot more work done, in fact, when we have that attitude, just because that pressure is no longer there. I wonder what suggestions or recommendations might you have for those who, on one hand, those who are in leadership like yourself, right, and feel that pressure from the top, perhaps, and from the bottom, right? You're a little bit squeezed in between there when you're leading. And you feel that need to keep going, to keep proving yourself, to do more and more. So perhaps recommendations for that demographic, but then also for folks who are perhaps on your team, who are still growing through the ranks, and might shy away, in fact, from leadership positions just because they perceive that it comes with the stressors, and they don't want that. The younger generations are really keen to voice the fact that they don't want to sacrifice themselves on the altar of work. So and there is, I feel it's two different demographics, but maybe I don't know if it's a similar advice there. But overall, coming out of the pandemic, I feel all of us just feel like, okay, well, my life is important. I want to be able to live life while I grow an awesome career. And how can I do that? So it'd be awesome to find out what you would advise.
Well, maybe I could do a little plug for the work that I do. Ask for an assignment. So there's nothing like mixing it up and making your life better, but then figuring out how you can get abroad and experience an expat assignment, or the self-directed kind of everyone's an expat now because a lot of companies are offering work from anywhere. So I think that's probably one of my suggestions for everyone. If you can add a little mobility into your life, maybe that will make it better. But to your question, if we start maybe with the younger generation who, as you said, don't want to sacrifice life to live because they're having to work so much, I would say sometimes you just have to do some of the hard yards to figure out what you're doing. You can't come in and get promoted from day one. So you have to accept that there will be some element of hard work. But then I think it's continuing to learn and be curious, but keep your boundaries, and continually kind of feeding back to your leader how it's going and what you want and what makes you happy. I think when everyone is engaged and happy, then it's just really better for everyone. Your leader wants you to be engaged and happy, and if you communicate, so I think it's communication on what's important for you, and getting that time with your leader to make sure that happens. For leaders who, as you say, kind of feel like they're in the sandwich and getting smushed on both sides, I think for me, it's really important to have support, and to check in with that support. So often my support is my husband, who tells me frequently I am not one of his staff. He's not, one of my staff. and so if I get a bit touchy, and he'll let me know. And then I kind of need to do that personal self-awareness to make sure that whatever energy I'm bringing to work is not bad energy. It's not the wrong vibe that I want to be creating in my space. And so, if I get too tired and I'm grumpy, then I don't need to be working, and I need to have, a mental health couple of hours so that I can reflect and reset, or if necessary, a whole day. But I think it's really important to understand that your aura is rubbing off on everyone around you. So you need to just be really cognizant of that and have the support around you to have someone who's honest enough to tell you that you need to tone it down.
Yes, indeed. I agree. And I would be curious to find out, what do you do, if you are keen to share, to take that edge off, right? So during your 2 hours of mental health, right? What helps you unwind? Or do you have any routines even during the day to help you not get there, right? To purposely refuel and set things in place so you don't get to being cranky.
That person. So the COVID was great for me in that I got to spend a lot of time with myself and understanding what are my triggers and how I work and function. And I'm a big lover of data. So what I did is created my own personal well-being challenge. So I've got 10 different categories that I know if I'm giving, and I rate myself throughout the day. And if I get to 100 points, then the data reflects, and I also track my mood on the day. So if I get to, my goal is 80 points. If I can get to 80 points, then I'm tracking along well. And if I have, significantly less, then it's not going so good. So the things that are in the challenge are like getting enough rest. So if I don't get enough sleep, that's not going to go well. And if I do that consistently, then that's not going to go well. I've got eating well, I've got exercise on there, I've got connecting with someone. So I'll give myself 10 points today for this conversation.
Granted.
And so, yeah, I just, and I, what I do is it's a piece of paper that I carry around, and so I'm checking in continuously through the day to make sure that I'm getting my points. So it's like a challenge for myself. It's a competition with myself. And if you know me, I'm a bit competitive. So it's a competition with myself to make sure that I'm focusing on what makes me better. And then I can go back and reflect and say, this week was not very good. And look what happened. I didn't get enough sleep, or I didn't eat right, or whatever. And then I can course correct. So for me, it's trying to avoid getting to that spot where I need the 2 hour, okay, it's not good. It's actually making sure that every day along the day, I'm making sure I'm doing what I need to do to be okay.
Awesome. And that's amazing. I have something similar in place, but I think it's important to check all those areas that are important for our well-being. And I'm happy you mentioned that, right? Rest is not enough. Exercise is not enough. Eating well, every single area by itself is great, but it's the totality of things that all of them need attention, right? In order for us to feel well and feel energized and at full capacity and happy after all, right? Joyful during the day. And it's important to track that. And I'm happy to hear that you're tracking that and that you're doing that every day. That's amazing. I'd say, I'm trying to do that, but I don't get to do that every single day. I do it more on a weekly basis. I think it gives you an opportunity to self-correct, like you said, if you do it every day, right? You just catch yourself. Oh, okay. Maybe, I need to connect with somebody and just kind of take a little bit of the edge off. That helps me too. Connecting with somebody just in general, just having a chat or having a frank conversation helps a lot. We don't realize how much it impacts us, right? Until we actually track it, like you said. So it's important to do that. And I'm happy you shared that. Any final thoughts here? So as we wrap up, I'm happy that we got a chance to talk about the personal side, right? Because there's this journey, like we said, to get to a leadership place, and we have to take care of ourselves, not to get to burnout. And that's a daily effort, like you're saying, but then also while you're there helping the team, right? Live based on what's important to them and what key points touch them in terms of wellness, right? And everybody's just a little bit different, and different needs, different situations at home and whatnot. Any final thoughts here before we close our talk here that might be helpful for those who are listening, right? What if you were to share your one thing, right, that one must do as a leader, right, whether for yourself or for your team to avoid burnout, what would that be?
Oh, I really like being outside and in nature. And another one of my 10 points is for movement. So getting my steps in. So what I've done is combined that with actually having walk and talks with my team. So, and it's not like one giant walk and talk. It's an individual walk and talk with my team. And so it's scheduled in. We do it once a month. We get out unless it's inclement weather and we can't, and then it turns into a coffee. But most of the time, only a couple times I've had to cancel it to be a coffee. But we get out and we just walk, and there's no agenda to this chat. It's 30 minutes of me. I don't ring my phone, so I don't get interrupted. I'm completely focused on that individual and wherever the conversation takes us. So it's a time to, like you said, build that psychological safety. I think it's easy to talk about these terms and be like, yeah, do it. But how do you actually create that? You spend time with your team. You understand, what's going on with them. And it's just natural. So that's my investment in my steps and with growing my team and getting closer to them and letting them know that I'm there for them. They don't have to wait till we have the walk to bring issues to me, but they know that they're gonna have my undivided attention during that time.
That's awesome. And I love that you're stacking your strategies, right? Get the steps and connect with the team. That's perfect. I love that. And I might just steal that, walk and talk. I love that. And if you're
Yes.
outside in nature, having some trees around or some sort of garden or someplace like that, it makes a big difference. I agree. Nature does wonders, and we don't take advantage or don't use that enough. The interior still is limited. I agree. Nature does wonders. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ursula. This has been an amazing talk. I really appreciate your time. I personally learned a lot, and I'm going to steal some of your strategies. So thank you so much for sharing. And I'm hoping those who are listening live and who will see perhaps the video after, that they can share in the comments what were their best takeaways, and any questions that they have for us. We would be, I'm sure you'd be happy to answer as well and keep the conversation going. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Joanna. I really appreciate being invited to chat with you. I mean, you're an expert in this space, so anything I can add to the conversation is great.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Have a great one. Bye now.
See you. Bye.